Welcome back, everybody, to the Roofing Roundtable podcast. I am your host, David Griggs, and I'm here today with Kim McCarty with the McCarty Group.
Yes.
And today I wanted to bring you in to talk about real estate, the relationship between a roofer and a realtor. Wanted to just let everybody know why they should choose you and the relationship that we have. So start us off. How did you get into real estate? Because you've been doing this like a long time.
27 years.
That's amazing.
A long time. Yes.
You know what you're talking about.
Some days.
So tell us how did you get into real estate?
I was actually a school teacher. And when I was teaching school, I decided I did not enjoy it. And it was great birth control because I was never having children. And so Keith and I decided that, if we wanted kids, I was going to have to find another career. And so like everyone else, very naive, I thought, well, I'll just get in real estate, right? I'm going to sell houses and make lots of money. It's easy. So that's how I got into real estate, is kind of deciding I didn't want to teach anymore. And so got my real estate license and started doing real estate and found out really quickly how hard it is to get people to trust you, especially your friends and your family. And so once I went to Wichita, we moved to Wichita, I worked for my aunt and I worked for her. She's a very successful real estate agent for the last 40 some odd years in the city of Wichita, Kansas. And so I was trained by her. And when you're trained by the best and you learn a lot, then you're able to take those skills and then put them into practice. So that's kind of how I got into the business.
That's awesome. Okay. What is the biggest thing you've learned from day one to 27 years later? Is there one big takeaway that you've learned over the years from that first day to today, or a lesson you learned early on that is like that to this day, that's like your go-to motto or go-to?
Always tell the truth. I mean, that's the biggest thing is always be honest with people about the situation and helping them. So I'm always honest about, hey, here's this great house, but let me tell you why you maybe shouldn't consider it. It backs up to the highway. I'm always very honest about their real estate and the future of their real estate. So I want them to consider me as a financial part of their financial world because it is their biggest investment. So I want to be considered in that wheelhouse with their financial advisor, their banker, whatever, their CPA. I think a great real estate agent is going to help you financially. A bad real estate agent can hurt you financially. They can let you buy something that you probably shouldn't have purchased.
And that's what I was going to say next. I think that's what I love about what you just said was I want a house, but I don't want to get into a house that I'm really pushing the limit of something that I can't afford.
Right.
That would just be the worst thing ever where I feel like, oh my gosh, I got to sell the house now. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
And that's
become
awesome.
House poor. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome that you are that upfront to make sure that the homeowner is being taken care of.
And to make sure that, everything is on the table about that particular house. And if I don't know the answer to the question, just going and seeking the advice of trusted professionals to get the answer, because I am not all those people, but I have plenty of people that can help answer all those questions.
That's great.
Yes.
What's the most favorite part of your job? Like, is it like showing the house for the first time? What's the most favorite part?
Other than closings, I would say actually just being that realtor for life. So I love first-time home buyers, and I love when they call me and they say, okay, we have 2 kids now. We're busting at the seams. We get to sell that house, buy the next one. Or if they actually do the financial advice that I recommend, hopefully they're holding that first investment and we're buying the second house, right? So now we've created a real estate portfolio for them. So that's probably my most favorite, is being their trusted advisor for life. And then becoming the family realtor, like they refer me to mom and dad, sisters, brothers. That is my favorite part of the business.
So for a first-time home buyer, what are typically some of the questions that they usually have? I mean, other than like cost and everything, I'm trying to think back when I bought my first house, and it was just kind of like, well, this is the budget and put us in a good neighborhood with schools. I mean, what are some of the questions that first-time home buyers have for you?
Well, right now with our current market, they're so competitive when it comes to first-time home buyers. It's hard for them to get into houses. So I think the best thing that we bring to the table for those first-time home buyers is our experience and our ability to win in multiple offer situations. So if you're interviewing a real estate agent right now as a first-time home buyer, I think you need to be asking them questions like, what do you do to set us apart when you submit an offer? Because if you're just submitting an offer and you're not selling the offer as to why it is a great offer for the seller to consider, then you're probably losing out in a multiple offer situation.
Well, and I think that's great that you just said that, because for me, and I'm being ignorant because I'm not in your shoes.
Right.
I'm sitting here thinking, oh, I go on Realtor.com and I look at houses. I'm not thinking about you guys are doing all this behind the scene things to help me get the house that I want.
Right.
And my next follow-up question was going to be, what does what does separate a great realtor from someone who just got into the industry, who doesn't know those little hacks that you guys know?
Right. To help win the offer.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it takes us a good hour and a half to 2 hours to get your offer ready to submit. So a lot of times I'm within deadlines. They'll say highest and best by 5 p.m. or whatever, and you're not signing the contract. Oh, we're out and about or whatever. We can't do it. That doesn't help us finish our job, because we actually put a whole packet together, and we have a whole packet that is emailed out to the listing agent, and it forces the listing agent to open everything because we put it in one PDF. So now they're forced to look at the entire packet. And in that packet is a letter from us that explains the offer, because I have found that we have realtors out there doing business who don't know how to read the real estate contract or don't understand it fully. So now I have to do their job by saying, here's what this means, here's why we did it this way, etc. So there's a whole write-up from us. Plus we do the love letters from the buyer, of course. Even though it may not be presented, I put it in there.
Yeah.
Right. So we put that in there. And of course the offer, if it's a loan, why we chose the lender that we're working with, preferably local lenders, things like that to help step them up. Of course, it all comes down to the net for the seller, right? Of course. So we're looking, how can we compete with the net without taking it so far above that maybe it won't appraise, right? So there's some tricks to that as well. So I would say that is the one thing that we do that sets us apart with the packet. But the time that it takes, people don't understand how long it actually takes us to get that ready once you've signed the offer.
I love that. And so now let's just say you have a house that your homeowner loves. You're walking around the house. What are things that you're looking for with your experience that may be red flags that you say, hey, I'm seeing things on the foundation, or, oh my gosh, the roof, everybody knows, okay, you have a blown off shingle. You can point that out pretty easy. At what point are you bringing in your trusted referral partners to say, hey, I think we need to address this, whether it's roofing, foundation, whatever?
So when I do a walk on a new potential listing the very first time, I actually don't let the homeowners walk with me. So I leave them in the kitchen and I set my stuff down and I tour the house without them, and I do it really quickly. And it always shocks them. Why did you not want us to walk with you? What was the purpose in that? And my purpose is to show them I walk a house just like a buyer did. Buyers buy with emotion, and they are in a house no more than probably 10 minutes. And the first 3 minutes, they decide if they're going to buy it or not, because their emotion kicks in. So if we don't sell them from the front door, we're not going to sell them by the time they get upstairs.
Gotcha.
Right? So that's what I do, is I walk that first walk super quick. But I've done this long enough that I can see, okay, I've got cracks, I've got this. So when I sit down now at the table, I start asking questions. Have you ever had any foundation work? Have you ever had any doors sticking, right? Have you ever had a foundation company come look at this? So I'm asking these questions. Then I'm asking, how long has it been since your roof has been replaced? I'm asking those questions to start getting those answers. And as I get those answers, then I decide, okay, I need to have these people come out before we put this on the market.
I love that. And so you've been in the industry for a long time, and you must have a Rolodex of just trusted contractors that you trust. Do you have a story or a bad experience story that something didn't go right or anything like that with a contractor that maybe you referred?
Well, I always like to start them at my house. So they get to start with me. And if they can pass my test, then they get to be added to that trusted vendor list. We have Kim's Toolbox, and it's got all of our trusted vendors on it.
I love that, Kim's Toolbox.
Kim's Toolbox. And it's got all of our trusted vendors on it. So if they're on that list, then they've passed the test with us. But as far as bad experiences, that's the purpose of a great vendor list, is that hopefully we don't have bad experiences. And sometimes, there may be some miscommunication. And if they know that it was a referral from me, then usually it's handled pretty quickly. Everything's taken care of. Not that I am God or something like that, but we do have an opportunity to refer a lot of business to people. And so those vendors like to keep our clients happy.
Yeah. I mean, and then at the end of the day, we're all human. And if someone drops the ball, it's nothing that can't be fixed.
Absolutely.
With a phone call or, oh, hey, I didn't do that. I'm going there right now to go get that taken care of for you.
And that's the big follow-up. Hey, so-and-so's not happy, because they'll call me and they'll say, oh, we're not happy with David. He did this, this, and this. Well, then I'm calling you and I'm saying, hey, they're not happy. Here's what they're telling me. Can you address this? So as long as there's communication, we can usually fix it.
Okay, here's a good question. So do you ever run into the situation where, let's just say you are the seller.
Okay.
And the buyer comes, and let's just say we know that there's a new roof being put on. It has to be done, right? The buyer knows about it. How often does it happen where the buyer comes and says, well, but we want to use our roofer? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, for example, like with me, my contract would be between me and your buyer, right? So does that happen a lot where they say they want to use, their roofer, and you're like, no, we want to use our roofer. We trust him. We know he's going to build the right way. It's great that you trust somebody, but we need to stand behind selling the house and making sure it's going to pass a roof inspection.
So typically when we represent the seller and we know the roof is getting replaced, we've already got the contract usually with the roofer. The big thing that we agree with the buyer that we're willing to let them do is help decide on the color, because they're going to have to live with the color forever.
That is a great point.
Okay. As long as it's a color that HOA approves, the seller approves, and the buyer approves, then we're good. If the buyer is picking some crazy color, even if the HOA, it's not going to happen. Yeah. Only because what if the buyer walks away at the 11th hour? Now the seller's with this roof that they hate, and we got to put the house back on the market. So that's really the only time that we agree to kind of work with the buyer, because the contract is with the roofing company that the seller has chosen, and the insurance company has approved. So that process is pretty far down that road.
Great. And I have one last question for you. So let's just say, for example, we have a seller and we don't have enough time to file a hail claim because, we're going to close in like 15 days or less.
Right.
In that situation, are your clients able to submit an invoice to title for closing for us to do the roof? Kind of talk about that just a little bit.
So yes, we can. What we can actually do is we'll take your invoice, and sometimes we'll collect a little bit more just for incidentals, and we'll have the title company hold that in escrow. That amount is held in escrow and is not released until both the buyer and the seller agree that the work is completed and that you agree the work is completed. That way, we don't have contractors walking in going, oh yeah, I've done the work, and sign off when the seller's like, they haven't even been here, So we have kind of a checks and balance. Everyone has to approve that the work is done before the money is released. As long as your insurance company as the buyer is okay with you closing on that house and having an invoice that says, here it is, showing that the money is being held in escrow, then we should be able to close with no problem.
That's awesome. Kim, what should everybody else know about you? Where can they find you, on your podcast, YouTube?
Yes.
Tell us everything about you, because I love you. I trust you. I want everyone to know about you.
Well, you can find us online at the McCartyGroupRealtors.com. And on that, you're going to find all of our podcasts, all of our videos. We do a lot of stuff. We are big in supporting community, and we're also big in supporting our local vendors and our local businesses. So we love to support those people. So you can find us there. And if you want to give us a call at 214-662-9308.
Thank you so much for coming on today. That's going to wrap up episode 4. Thank you so much. This is David Griggs with Granada Roofing, signing off.